Good morning, everybody. We're going to have a lot of fun today looking at dynamic zone visibility. That's how you can swap and pop images in and out of your dashboard. It's going to be a lot of fun today. But first, we want to introduce ourselves. Diego?
Thank you, Jim. I'm Diego Martinez. I'm from Colombia, South America. I love to travel. I have been working with Tableau like almost 10 years ago with Tableau software. And also I work for a company that is a partner of Tableau. It's Maddox in Colombia. Um, well, this is awesome. I'm very excited to be here. So, Jim,
Yes, my name's Jim Dehner. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I've been using Tableau for about 9 years. And Diego and I are two of your visionaries. And you may have run into us out of the forum. Now, we have to do this. I know you've seen this statement before. We don't want you making any financial investments based on what Diego and I recommend. We are Tableau experts, but financial experts, we are not. So do not take any of our advice to make financial investments. We want to thank you for being here today. We want to thank you for coming to TC. We want to thank you for being members of the community. It's your involvement that keeps us involved in the community, and we sincerely thank you. Diego?
yeah, we're very happy. Jim and I keep helping people in the forums. Most of the cases that we're going to see today comes also from the forums. Well, also dynamics and visibility is probably one of our favorite features from Tableau. So let's go to the agenda. Basically, we have already talked about this. The second thing that we are going to do is talk about the basics of dynamics and visibility. We are going to show you some examples related to dynamics and visibility, like popping or showing floating elements, how to show details, zoom in, zoom out. Well, we are going to show you several examples that you are going to enjoy. And finally, if we have time, we are going to answer some questions that you probably may have.
Okay, well, we talk about dynamic zone visibility. Well, what is it? It's an easy way to hide items or show items on your dashboard. And when we're talking about items, we're talking about containers or worksheets or legends or filters or parameters. We can just pop them in and out of the dashboard. There's three things you have to remember. We need to set up a Boolean trigger. And I know that sounds kind of impressive. All it is a true-false statement. And we're going to show you how to do that. You need to place it on the worksheet, and then we have to apply it on the layout tab of your dashboard. I'm going to show you how that's done. I'm going to show you the mechanics of how that's done, and then we're going to get into some really cool examples. I created this dashboard, and you can see we got a lot of things going on, and it's kind of cluttered, and it doesn't look really good. What we'd like to be able to do is we'd like to be able to select to show the top three or the top end drill down by city, or we'd like to be able to select through this parameter to look at the subcategories, the top three subcategories. And we can do that very easily with dynamic zone visibility. Now let's take a quick look at how that's accomplished. Okay. Okay. Now we started by setting up a parameter. We're going to take a quick look at the parameter that we set up, and there's nothing magic about it. It's just a string parameter, and I've used values in here, string values for state, city, and subcategory. And then I set up these Boolean triggers, and they are nothing more than a very simple true-false statement. When the parameter value is city, this statement's going to return a true. So I want to put that on the worksheet for city. And we've done the same thing for state. When it's equal to state, this is going to return a true. Any other time, it's going to return a false. And then we've done the same thing for the subcategory. Now I'm going to show you where we're going to put those in just a second here. Now we go back to the dashboard, And it's in this area, in the upper left-hand corner of the dashboard, on the Layout tab is where you engage the dynamic zone visibility. And we have our choice of doing three things here. We can either show the title or hide the title. We can make the item floating on the dashboard, or it can be fixed on the dashboard. And this is where we apply the dynamic zone visibility by checking off this box. And then we tell Tableau what Boolean trigger to use on this specific worksheet. Here, we're looking at subcategory, so we'll just check off the subcategory Boolean trigger there. And when we do that, when subcategory is checked, we're going to see the subcategory layout. When city is checked, you can see here now we're using the city Boolean, and it returns a true when we see city. And it's no more difficult than that. Now that's the mechanics, and you're going to see us doing this over and over again, where we create a Boolean trigger and then we apply it on the Layout tab of the dashboard. Diego, you want to show them how we do this to show and hide some containers?
Thank you very much. Okay, in this case, what I'm going to show you is about how to do a zoom in and zoom out. It's basically pretty simple. We have created a parameter, yeah, and the parameter has 5 possible values. It has the all value, the sales value, profit value, discount value, and quantity value. And we have created 4 triggers, yeah. One to choose the view sales. In this case, we are creating a calculated field that involves the value of the parameter, and we are evaluating if this parameter value is in sales or all. Yeah, that way we can create our dynamic zone visibility, like already Jim told us. For example, in this case, I have a child container. And as you see here, we have assigned the view sales. The same for this container that I have right here. Yes, we have the view profit. Okay, and we have done for every one of these child containers. But the interesting key thing here is that we are going to show you a common error that also a lot of people make, yeah? Because when you assign the dynamic zone visibility to the child containers, yes, you also have to be sure that you also assign to the parent containers. So as you see, this is one container, and I have some parent containers, yes, that I have enclosed with this orange border, yes. And let's see what happens when I select, for example, sales. As you will notice, the some action may work, yes, but as you see, the parent container which I have not given a dynamic zone visibility explicitly, yes, is over here, yes. So what is the solution? The solution here is to also create some calcs for the parent containers and assign the dynamic zone visibility to the parent containers, yeah. So in this case, we have created also another calcs where I have, for example, for the parent container that has the sales and profit views, yes, we have created another Boolean calc that depends on the child calcs, yes, and we have assigned this Boolean calc, yes, to the parent containers. Well, I'm going to assign them. So in this case, I'm going to show again all the visuals, yes, and I'm going to assign to our parent containers in this case is the sales and profit, and I will do the same for this parent container where I'm going to give the quantity or discount volume, and you are going to see that when we have configured correctly, this parent container that probably you would see over here, yes, it's not going to be shown. And that is so wonderful because when you don't hide the parent containers, probably you will have some problems that you may think that the dynamic zone visibility is not behaving correctly. Instead, probably is a missing configuration that you have to do. So, James, you are going to tell us about your case.
Okay. Okay, let's take a look at okay, we've been taking a look at showing and hiding containers. Now what we'd like to do is show you how we can look inside the container and hide individual items inside the container. And I've started with a dashboard here. I know this looks very busy now, but all I've done is I've created two bar charts and then use the same data to create line charts and to create text charts. On the bar charts, I've created separate worksheets for sales broken down by category and the count of customers broken down by market segment. And we've got the same charts as line charts, and we got the same charts as text charts. Now, we've also got these legends here. Now, these legends are individual items on the worksheet, and in the past, they've been kind of hard to hide, but using dynamic zone visibility, this is very easily done. What I'd like to do is I'd like to see the legends whenever I'm looking at the bar charts or the line charts. But when I'm looking at the text chart, I don't really want to see those legends. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how we can assign each one of these charts. We can hide each one of these charts based on a Boolean trigger and also hide the legends in the process. Let's start by looking at where we're going. This is the result that we're looking for. And we're going to start by looking at how we've set up those Boolean triggers. First, I've got a parameter set up. And this is the same type of parameter that I used before. It's a string parameter, and we're just looking at line charts, bar charts, or text charts. And then for the individual charts, we've got a trigger set up that looks like this is just what we did before. If the parameter returns line, return a true, and we're going to look at the line charts. And we've done the same thing for the bar charts and for the text chart. But what we'd like to do on the legends, we want to see those if the parameter returns either a bar or a line. So we've set up one more Boolean trigger that we're going to use on the legends. And if it returns bar or line, we're going to see those. We're going to see the legends. If it returns text, we're not going to see those legends. And we set them up just like before. And let's start up here. We're looking at bar charts to start with. Okay, and all we've done is come up and we've checked off the dynamic visibility control, and we're looking at bar charts. On the line charts, we're going to check off line charts, and on the text charts, we're going to look at the text charts. We're going to now for the legends themselves, and I've got two different legends here, and they're each set up the same way. I've got the legend for the categories and the legend for the segments. Each one of them are set up by selecting that other Boolean trigger, the bar or the line. And we just check that off, and there's nothing more involved to it than that. So we can look, and we can take a look at the bar charts. We can take a look at the line charts. And the bar charts are replaced with the two line charts. And we can take a look at the text charts. And when we look at the text charts, we get our text values but those legends that we didn't want to see have disappeared. I've done one other thing here. I've included a map that we can use for navigation. And by including this, we can change the value from the national view to the local view. Now we're looking at the sales in the state of Texas. And all we've done to do that is we've included a action, and it's a simple filter action that goes from the map chart to all the other charts. So that's how you can apply dynamic zone visibility to individual items within containers, and you can still use all of the other functions of Tableau, including all the actions and parameter actions and the like. Diego, you want to show us how we go ahead and hide overall containers? And
Yes, and I found your example very interesting because you also have shown that we can use it in legends, but also we can use it in filters and other different objects that different than sheets. So it's so wonderful that you have bring us this example. And also it's very interesting because a lot of people also try to, when they want to see probably sometimes the bars, sometimes the lines, and probably there are people that also wants to read the tables. So it's an interesting thing, technique, so you can give everybody what they want. So it's a wonderful example. Okay. So our following example is what I call the container trap, okay? Probably the first thing that I'm going to show you is not related to dynamic zone visibility, but probably you know this feature that when you can add or hide, yes, a button. So when you click on it, you hide the object, and when you show the object, when you click again, you show the object. Yes, you can create this type of buttons for every type of content. But this type of buttons, I have created two buttons of this kind here. I have a small problem. And the small problem here is that in this case, I have a parent container, yes, that has this sheet and also this sheet. And inside this sheet, this parent container, I have also another button that fires, that show or hides this bees, as you will see here. It shows or hides. And the problem with when you have these parent buttons and child buttons to show, yeah, is that when you hide the element, yes, and you hide the parent container and you show the parent container, you will see that the sheet is going to be shown even if it was hidden, yes. So it's hidden. I hide the parent container, and when I show, it becomes already again shown. So probably this is not the behavior that we want to have, yes. And I'm going to show you that the solution is to use dynamic zone visibilities. In this case, I have created two parameters. One is the show parent container, and another is to show child container. Yeah. So, as Jim already said, in this case, I am not going to create a calculated field. Instead, I'm going to use the child and the parent parameters, the show container and the show child container parameters. I'm going to use them directly, yes, in our dynamic zone visibility. Okay. So in this case, for example, for the parent container, that is this one, I have already assigned the show parent container parameter. And also for this sheet, I have also assigned the show child container. Yes. Okay, that is half of the way of the technique. Yes, because what we have already done is to create two sheets that behaves with the same logic. Yes, to change the value of the parameter. Yeah. So what we have done here is that I have basically created a placeholder to emulate, to simulate, yes, the button. Yes, so this is the placeholder. And what I have created is a calculated field. In this case is the not parent container. That basically is the opposite of the value that I have, yes, originally. Okay, so in this case, I have the negative value of the parameter, yes, and this is what I'm going to use in the parameter action to change the value of the parameter. Okay, so what I have created here in actions, yes, is a parameter action. In this case, let's review the one that has to do with the parent container. And as you notice here, yes, what we have selected here is our sheet that simulates the button of the parent container. We are assigning the show parent container. What are we assigning? Which value? The not parent container value. So if the parameter is true, what we are going to assign is a false value, and if the value is false, what we are going to assign is a true value. Yes. So wonderful. And another thing that we have also built on this button, so they behave pretty naturally. As you notice, I only clicking once, is to also add a remove or an action to remove the highlight. And it's pretty interesting because a lot of people uses this technique to remove the highlight. For that, we have created two calculated fields. That is, one is 1, as you see, 1. And also we have the 0. And to remove the highlight, yeah, we have also added filter action. In this case, we're going to show the parent. In this case, we have the origin of the action. Yes, is the show hide parent container. Yeah, and we are going to select in the list. Yes, in this list, we have first the dashboard, and then we have every single sheet. We're going to select the sheet, the same sheet. So you see here we are selecting the sheet inside the dashboard, but here we are selecting directly the sheet. Okay, and to remove the highlight, we are going to run this action on select and to show all values. And the secret is here. We have to select the fields from 1 to 0, and don't forget to show all values. What this is going to do is that automatically when I click on this button, yeah, this sheet button, yeah, I only will need to click only once, because if I don't add this type of action, I will have to click twice, one to select and one to unselect. Okay, and that's pretty much what I have to bring for this example. In the next example, Jim is going to show us some examples about floating objects, and that's be very wonderful. So, Jim.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites. Up to now, we've been using dynamic zone visibility to show and hide objects in containers or worksheets. I want to show you how we can do it with a floating container. And this example, I've actually created two different maps. One of the maps is for the New York subway system. These are the lines on the New York subway system. And the second map is actually all the Starbucks locations along those subway lines. I wanted to do this so that I could get my cup of coffee in the morning. Okay, and what we're going to do is I've created some instructions here on an instruction sheet that I want to be able to show and hide. And this is part of this floats in the dashboard itself. And I've also got another container up here that's going to list the Starbucks location in proximity of the walking distance, how far I want to walk that morning. Now I want to show you how we put this together. We, in creating this chart, I'm using spatial parameters, and that's a topic all to itself. It's a great topic. They're really something that you want to learn how to use, but it's kind of, that's for another day. That's for somebody else to do today. But creating the dashboard, I've got a series of parameters here that we use. This one parameter is a Boolean parameter. It's similar to what Diego just used. A Boolean parameter just returns a true or a false. I didn't want to see the words true and false. I want to either show the instructions or hide the instructions, so you can assign an alias here. And when the Boolean is true, we're going to see the instructions. When I don't want to see it, I'll take the false value and we'll hide the instructions. I've also included a parameter here for this walk distance. If it's raining, I might only want to walk maybe 1/10 of a mile as opposed to walking a 1/4 mile like we've got it set to here. And I wanted to show you these two spatial parameters. If you're not familiar with these, it's something that you will want to become familiar with. This first spatial parameter is used to when I want to select one of the subway lines. And by clicking on any point on that subway line, it returns all the longitudes and latitudes along that entire subway line. The second spatial parameter is one I use to select a single location along that subway line. And it can select a single Starbucks location. It's a spatial parameter. Parameter type is spatial. It is either empty or it returns one longitude and latitude for the one point that I selected. Now, with that, we're going to create a buffer around that single Starbucks location. Okay, all we're doing is drawing a circle around that Starbucks location equal to the 1/4 mile distance that I've got this set at. It's now set to miles, the 1/4 mile distance around that. And then we're going to use this other spatial command. This is an intersects command. And all it does is it checks all the Starbucks locations and it says, is it in the circle or is it not in the circle? If it's within that buffer zone around the Starbucks location, it returns a true. If not, it returns a false. And this last calculation here is the Boolean parameter, or the Boolean trigger that we're going to use to show or hide this floating container. And here what we're doing is we count the number of Starbucks locations that are inside that buffer zone. And if it's greater than 0, return a true. If not, return a false. And you see that I've got this set up as a LOD expression that we have to do to create the Boolean trigger. Well, let's see how this works. We've got some instructions here, and the instructions tell us that we're going to go to the left chart, and we're going to select a subway line, and then from the right chart, we're going to select a single Starbucks location, and then we can review the list of locations that that show up in the pop-up. Now, what this container actually is a it's a text container, and if you haven't used text containers, they can be treated just like any other text editor or like the tooltip. Just open it up. You can type text into it. You can format text into it. I put a yellow background on it, and I just put a border on it. But here is where we control the floating aspect of that container. We're using the dashboard instructions. That's the title that I put on that container. It's the dashboard instructions. It's a floating container, and we're using this parameter, this show instruction parameter, to either return a true to see the instructions or a false to hide the instructions. So we're done with the instructions. Let's hide the instructions. We don't need to see them anymore. Now, I can select any subway line and we can see all the Starbucks locations along that line. I'd like to go in here and select one of those locations. And another window opens up. This is another floating container, opens up and it says there are 4 locations within a quarter-mile walking distance of the one that you chose. And we take a look up here. We're using that Boolean trigger to count the number of Starbucks locations greater than 0. We're using a calculation here. It's greater than 0, so it returns a true. And this floating container opens up. Well, let's see what's actually happening on that list. I've got this list of Starbucks locations, and if you remember, this formula just says, this formula just is an intersect, and it says, hey, check all those locations, and if the Starbucks location is within that buffer zone around the one that I selected, then return a true. If not, return a false. And I've just set the filter here to true. And if I were to remove that, you'd see all the Starbucks locations in New York City. When it's a true, we only see the ones that are in proximity. And that's all there is to it. Diego, you've got something that you're going to show us how we can use dynamic parameters, mixing up different chart types. This is really a great example.
Thank you, Jim. And also your example is so great because you have also mixed 2 data sets, and that's very interesting. So what I'm going to show you is an example that I saw in the first stages of the pre-release of the dynamic zone visibility. It was a very interesting example that I wanted to reproduce. I would try to show you how it behaves, and then I'm going to explain you how I did it, okay? So in this case, for example, let's see, we have the subcategories, the sales per each subcategory. And when you click on a bar, you are going to see that I have a detail. Yes, and this resembles something like the biz info tip, but it is pretty more advanced because I have a beautiful layout where I'm putting two pieces side by side, and it's very interesting. And as you probably are guessing, we are using 2 sheets, one for the selected subcategories that are below the selected rank, and one sheet that is showing the subcategories that are that have a rank that is greater than the selected subcategory. So, as you may guess also, what we have done here is that we have filtered the first sheet, yes, to show only the ranks that are below the number, and for that we have a parameter action, yes, that has assigned the value of the selected subcategory rank to this parameter, yes, and that way we are filtering the upper Bs and the lower Bs, yeah. And also when the value is unselected, you will see that the rank parameter goes to 0, and that way we are going to create our dynamic zone visibility that is going to show our 2 pieces, yes, that I have here inside this container. So let's take a look of the Boolean trigger that we have built here. In this case, this is a container that has 2 sheets, and as you see, we have here a calculated field to show the detail that has been assigned to the dynamic zone visibility. So let's take a look of the calculation that is behind this dynamic zone visibility calc. And we're going to go to the sheet. In this case, we're going to show detail.
And as you see here, we have a selected subcategory parameter, and when the value is different than known, we are going to show that container that has the detail. Yes. So how are we changing this parameter? We are changing it by using a parameter action. Let's take a look at the parameter action. In this case, the show detail. And as you see, it's pretty simple. What we have here is that we have two source sheets. That is the upper sheet and the lower sheet. Yeah. Also, we are assigning the selected subcategory parameter to the value of the subcategory selected, yes. And when the value and when the selection is clear, we are assigning a known value. That way, when the Boolean trigger is set to false, so that way we are going to hide our dynamic zone visibility. And also, as I stated before, we have a filter, yes, to filter the upper sheet and the lower sheet. And we are assigning a rank parameter according to the value of the rank, yes. That way we are going to filter appropriately the values of the subcategories that will appear in the upper sheet and the bottom sheet. And that's very, very, very interesting, because that way we can show details of our marks in a beautiful way. We could also add some elements like sales in a text box. This can be enriched so far that it is a beautiful technique and very, very, very used in several Tableau Public pieces that I have recently viewed. So it's a very interesting technique. You can take the details. Also, we're going to publish this workbook in Tableau Public, so you can get in the details of how this was achieved. Let's go back to you, Jim. You are going to show us a very interesting use case where you use dynamic zone visibility to change the language.
Okay, this is an example. It's an example that I really enjoy doing. Sometimes in some organizations, you might have users who speak English and other users who are like Spanish speakers, like Diego and I. And your English speakers are more comfortable looking at your dashboards in an English, all in English, and your Spanish speakers would be more comfortable if everything was in Spanish. And I'm going to show you how you can do that using dynamic zone visibility. We can switch between languages. Now, what I've done here, and I want to show you how we created this, is I've created two sets of charts. One set of charts is in English, like our scatter plots here are in English, and this set is in Spanish. And then the trend lines are in English and Spanish, and of course they bring over their legends along with it as in English or in Spanish. Well, let's take a look at how that's actually done. What we have here are two data sources, and these two data sources, one is in English and one is in Spanish. And I've created all of the Spanish language charts from the Spanish data set. And likewise, I've created all of the English charts from the English data set. So there's two separate data sets out there. We brought them in and put them in the same dashboard. They're not connected together. You don't connect the data sorts together. They're separate data sources, and we created English versions of all the charts and Spanish versions of all the charts. And then we're going to use dynamic zone visibility to select between which charts we want to see. Now I'm doing that using a value picker. And the value picker that we're going to use looks like these flags, and there's 3 flags up here in three different positions, position 1, 2, and 3. And all I've done is create a parameter, and it's a very simple parameter where all we're looking at is the integers 1, 2, and 3 that I'm going to show you how we related those to those flag positions. And if I select that parameter and it's equal to 1, I want to see the English values. And if it's anything other than 1, I want to see the Spanish values. So there's one additional thing that we need, and that's our value picker. And our value picker here is nothing more than the flags, the flag images that you see there. I've created a separate worksheet. We've got flag locations 1, 2, and 3, and this is a shape chart. And all I've done here is, this is a custom image file, and all I've done is I've gone out to the internet, gone out to the web, and I've downloaded images of the U.S. flag, the Colombian flag, and the Spanish flag that we're going to use as our images here. Okay, and there's just one last thing we need to do, and we need to add a parameter action that's tied back to those locations. And it's just a very simple action. All we're doing is we're going up to this value picker. See, I don't know about you, but I don't like to look at a long list of in a drop down and try to pick from that long list in a drop down. I would rather look at something visual that I can pick from the screen. And I call that a value picker. We're going to pick a value picker, and it's either going to be 1, 2, or 3, and that's going to change that parameter location to a value of 1, 2, or 3. And that's what we're using to change our chart. Now, if you look at the dashboard itself, all of the Spanish worksheets and legends use the same Boolean trigger, the one that we looked at, that set the value of the location to other than 1, will show us the Spanish language, and all of the English charts use the English Boolean, and that's really all there is to changing languages in the charts. But understand what we're really doing, and this is really important. This is the important part. We really have 2 separate data sources. Now, I used English and Spanish. You might have different business units that you want to look at you want to look at the same charts, and maybe you want to keep the data separate for your databases are separate for some reason. You can use the same technique then to look at different data coming from different data sources, and you don't connect the data sources on the worksheet. Now, Diego's got 2 more examples to show us. Diego, you want to take over now and show us these last 2 examples?
Wonderful. I'm going to show you some examples. In this case, we're going to show you a dynamic zone visibility that has to do with a user filter. In this case, what I have created is a Boolean trigger that uses a user filter function. In this case, we are using username. So I'm going to show you how I configure this Boolean trigger. This case is very easy. I have a Boolean trigger that is username equals to admin. What I want to achieve here is, for example, for a set of users to be able to watch this KPI table. And when the user is not admin, I don't want to show it. So it's pretty interesting, because if I change the user that is logging For example, I'm going to change it to Andres. Yes, you are going to see that the info will not show. And this is pretty useful because not everybody have to look or to be allowed to see all the information. So this is pretty interesting because you can use dynamic zone visibility to hide some of the elements of the dashboard to certain type of people according to the use of user functions, and that's pretty interesting. The next example that I'm going to show you is how to use fixed calculations and sets to show or hide elements from your view. In this case, I have three views. I have the overall, the multiple regions, and the one region. In this case, I want to show this view when all the regions are selected. I want to show this one when 2 or 3 regions are selected. And I want to show this view when there's only one region selected. And that would be very easy to do because you only have to assign the dynamic zone visibility to each of the views. For example, in this case, I'm assigning for the multiple regions and this one for the single region. But probably you are wondering which are the calculations that are behind this. And I'm going to show you. Basically, what we have created are some fixed calculations. In this case, let's take a look at the dynamic zone visibility for all regions. So if you see what I have here is that I'm counting the elements in the region set, and if that equals to the total of the regions, this is going to be true. Let's take a view, for example, for the multiple regions. In this case, what I'm doing is if the number of regions is greater than 1, but less than the number of regions in our datasets, this is going to be true. And finally, for the one region trigger, Boolean trigger, what we are going to do is if the number of regions selected in the region set equals to 1, this is going to be true. And that's pretty interesting because that way what we are achieving, is that using a set, we can also control dynamic zone visibility, and that's pretty awesome. Okay. Okay, Jim, what happened here?
No, I don't know. We're done. Shouldn't this be an end slide? Did I make a mistake?
Where is our thank you slide? Oh, I already remember. Okay, I'm going to refresh this data set. Okay, here is our update, because we're also using dynamic zone visibility with a time function, and that's pretty interesting because we will be able to use dynamic zone visibility also with time functions. So it's pretty interesting that dynamic zone visibility can be used with user functions, with sets and fixed, with time functions, with parameters, and so that expands the use that you can give to dynamic zone visibility in several ways.
Thanks for being here. We hope you enjoyed yourselves, and by all means, go out and use these because absolutely one of my favorite new features in Tableau.
Thank you everyone for assisting here, and I hope that you have learned a lot from us.